Welcome to Books, Booze, and Murder, Campfire Chats. I'm Anna.
And I'm Alexa.
We're two besties who love to read and, like many, have a fascination with true crime. And with summer in full force, we figured we'd do a spin-off with just books. We'll compare notes for those we've both read and what we will not be covering in full episodes, as well as introducing books we've read individually.
Because we essentially live in the boonies surrounded by the forest, and campfires are the go-to thing in the summer, we figured we'd bring our campfire chats to our listeners. Enjoy!
Alright, so I actually read this first book. Oh, it's all blurring. June 5th was when I finished it, and it is...
Finished it.
Yep, and June 27th is the day that we're recording this. And it feels like I read this a lot longer ago. So, yeah, Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And before we jump on in, I gotta open up my drink. Because I am drinking a Happy Thursday pineapple starfruit drink.
And I'm drinking a Happy Thursday strawberry spiked refresher.
Yum.
It's the same freaking thing.
Yep, so...
Bam.
Yes! Okay. But, what did you... I saw that you actually just finished this book not that long ago. What did you think of it?
I think I finished this book maybe last weekend. Because I haven't even done a write-up for the gram yet about it. Because, school just ended for me. So I'm just like, I can't. Don't have time. And then I forget. Out of the brain. Done. Out. I loved this book. It was so stinking cute. Had a great storyline. I kind of was able to guess that the way it was gonna shake out, but that ending with when Tova met Avery on the pier, I was like,
yeah,
she does get closure.
Yeah.
Thank God she gets closure. Like, there's something to that where it was like, and giving Octopus a voice, giving Marcellus an actual voice so you can hear him is like, I knew octopuses were smart, but that was cool. That was a great little touch there that they had.
Yeah. And I mean, I, quote unquote, walked in, or I started reading this book thinking, it was just going to be Tova and Marcellus. So when they introduced, what was the grandson's name again? Cameron. When they introduced him, I was like, wait, what am I missing?
Right? I was like, how does this all fit in? And now, of course, it all makes sense.
Yeah. No, it was so good. And I remember when we recorded our last full episode, we were like, the description does not do this book justice.
No.
At all. And, I think at times Tova's personality really pissed me off because I'm like, accept friendship. Accept the fact that people love you. You're not a burden to people. People love you.
That's interesting that you think that way.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, I can definitely see where she's coming from because she has the friends that are super social and they really want to be together all the time. So when people move away, it's just like, change is really hard and I don't like change. So what? You should just move in with me, please. Because obviously she's not worried about any of her finances because she's been obviously there was never a number given, but she's like, I am well off.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I clean because I want to clean.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, you are so beloved. Oh. And I will admit, I think I shed a tear near the end for Marcellus. I was like, Marcellus, no! But the fact that he got released, I was like, oh!
Well, A, he got released.
Yeah.
And then B, it was, he was talking about being released and sent back to the decaying bones of the child of the person who just set me free. And I was like,
yeah.
Back to where he found the key originally. And I was like,
yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, for a debut novel, Holy shit, so good. I would definitely read another book by her.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember if I mentioned this before, but actually one of the teachers at the district that you work for, like, you work for one part of the school.
Yep.
It was in the other part of the school.
The other
that
building.
Staff were like, you have to read this book.
Oh.
And that's how I found out about it. Or else I would have been like, okay, cool, it's a book about an octopus. But people are like, no, it's so good, you have to read it. And I really, really enjoyed it.
Yes. Yes, so much. Oh, yeah.
So that's our positive review.
Are in the middle of A Court of Wings and Ruin.
Yes.
Is that number 3 or 4?
Yes.
Okay.
So, like, when you look up these books online, the 4th one is, like, 3.5 or whatever.
Okay.
I'm like, whatever, it's book 4.
Right.
So, yeah, so this one, I know you haven't read it yet, so I won't give away spoilers. This book, I had to mentally prepare myself for. It's in the same category for me as Outlander. Because the books are so long, I mean, other than book number 4, which is shorter, they're so long, I have to mentally prepare myself for the commitment to sit down and read. What I am finding is that every time I think I'm starting to really like Nesta, the sister, something else happens, and I'm like, I can't stand you.
That's a pain.
Yeah. So far, there's not as much smut as in the second one, but it is what it is. But at the same time, as someone who's not a fantasy reader usually, I'm able to follow this pretty well, and it's gotten even darker in a way, but I mean, the adventure is still cool.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
I know. I'm trying to like work myself back up to start like reading the series more, because of course I finished the second one. And I finished it by listening to it on Spotify. So I was like, okay, so this is another commitment type of thing. And it's like, I don't know. And I also weeble wobble in between, do I just want to buy the rest of the series? Am I just going to buy books 3, 4, 5?
Borrow from me.
And I might just do that because I cannot just say I'm going to buy 3, 4, 5 in a series without buying 1 and 2, but I've already read 1 and 2, and I don't know if I'll actually reread them again. So I'm just like,
Yeah. No, I'm not even going to call it a problem. I don't have a problem.
I do not have a problem.
These are one of the books where I'm going to buy them, and I think part of it's that, like, I love the library. I mean, that's how I read Remarkably Bright Creatures, was borrowing at the library. But it's like, I don't want to feel the pressure of having to return it, even though I know you can renew. I just don't want that pressure. And of course, as you know, like, if I own a book...
Those are big books. Yeah. Some of those are really big books.
Yeah. But, like, I'm known for loaning out my books all the time. And it's like, okay, if it's been, like, a year or 2 since I've seen them, I'll be like, how is it going? But otherwise, I don't care. Because am I going to read it anytime soon? Probably not.
It's like, are you going to reread it? I'd like to think I'm going to reread it, and that's why I buy my books.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
No,
you can borrow mine once I'm done with it, and obviously, it's truly, I think part of my mentality with it is if a book is like 350 pages, that's a good sweet spot for me, where it's
that's
like,
fair.
I'm not stuck reading it for a massive amount of time.
Right.
And I can move on to the next book.
Right.
And these books are not that.
No. No, they're not. They do kind of, I don't want to say they drag out, but because they give a lot of detail in there. It's not like it's just dragging the story to drag the story. It's there's an actual purpose behind it. So I totally get that.
Yeah. I mean, like you kind of mentioned, like dragging on a little bit, but not dragging on. That's definitely what the majority of these books are until the last, like, 1 to 200 pages. And that's where it just flies. So
okay.
That's what I've found, is that the very end of these books are very quick. And you're like, oh my gosh, I need to know. I can't stop reading. But, I mean, so far, I'll do, like, increments of, like, 50 pages a day. Because, I mean, obviously, being busy with other stuff. But it's been very fascinating. And it's been interesting to see the sisters more involved.
Yeah.
So...
Interesting.
I've gotten annoyed with one of the sisters, but at the same time, it's coming to fruition, like, what happened. I mean, you know this already. Like, they got put into the cauldron and they were made to be...
I know, I'm very, very intrigued to see how they adjust, especially the one sister who was engaged to...
Yeah.
The Prince, the Lord...
whatever.
And does not like any of the fey creatures.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, that's a...
It's been very interesting to learn what her gift or whatever it was. So that's what's coming to fruition. I'm about a little over 300 pages in right now, and I'm like, ooh.
All right, I like it.
But you have a book that you've been reading that I've never even heard of.
I am in the middle of 2 books. Because I think I mentioned this in the full podcast. I read a book for bedtime, and then I listen to a book. So again, I cannot say enough praises about Libro FM, and I'm very thankful that my one friend lets me use her account, because she's purchased 90 plus books that are audiobooks.
Oh my lord.
I just can't listen to the same ones that she and her kids are listening to as well at the same time. But she's like, we already read this one, it's good, and we already read this one, it's good. So please download those and go and listen to them. So The House in the Cerulean Sea has actually gotten a lot of really good press behind it.
Yes. So actually,
it's so cute.
I just said I had never heard of it, but that's a lie. Because I was like, wait a second. I don't think I've heard of it, but let me look. I'm very visual. I run...
The cover.
Yes. I run a book class on my fitness app called The Next, where I cover books every week, and I covered this a few weeks ago.
You already covered this one and you forgot?
Yeah.
You're dangling. You amaze me.
I kind of remember it, but please refresh me. Oh, shit.
You're a dink. It's fine. But so, this is about a caseworker for magical children that goes... Like, it starts off with he's in this one orphanage, and basically he's the one who says, yes, this orphanage can stay open. No, this needs to be shut down. But it is specifically for magical children, and his higher-ups are called DICME. It's the Department in Charge of Magical Youth is what it stands for. So those are, like, the super, super higher-ups, and they're called extremely upper management. It's quite literally, that's what they're called in the book. It's extremely upper management. I'm like, okay, this is cool. But so it starts off with him in and Linus Baker is the caseworker, and he's a very by the book type of dude. Very, very, like, he's read the rule book, which is 1,000 pages long, probably 4 times, 5 times, if not up to 10 times, where he can quote, in this chapter, on this page, in this subparagraph, it says this. So I need to follow this rule. Very, like, almost, I'm gonna say this, and I'm not gonna like that I'm saying this, but it's like almost like autistically, regimented and like with that hyper-focused knowledge type of thing, which a lot of autistic kids are known for.
Yeah.
So he goes to this house that's an orphanage, and it's like class 4 confidential. So nobody knows this place exists other than the headmaster, extremely upper management, and obviously all the kids that live in there. There are 6 kids that live in there. And they are so freaking funny. I love listening to their banter. So there's Talia, who is a female gnome with the beard and everything.
Oh.
Uh-huh. There is Sal, who's like, I almost feel like he's like a beaten St. Bernard type of dog. But he, like they talk, and he talks like this. The reader does a wonderful job, like, with all the different voices in this book. It is wonderful. So then there's Sal. Theodore is, I'm not going to get the correct name of him, but, like, he never actually speaks. We never hear him say anything. It's like he speaks in squawks. He almost reminds me of a small bat bird-like creature. Okay. Where he can fly and he can walk and he has wings, but he doesn't necessarily say anything. And he collects buttons and coins and all these little things, and those are his treasures. There's also, so I mentioned Talia and Sal and Theodore. Then there's Fee, who is a wood sprite. not a nymph, not a fairy, a sprite. And she's very, I'm going to grow foliage and I like my trees and all of these things. And she's great. And then there's Chauncey, who's hilarious. He talks like this, and he wants to be a bellhop because he wants to help people all the time. It's wonderful. It is wonderful to hear his voice and how the reader reads it. I got, like, props to whoever read this. I don't even remember. It's wonderful, though. I think I got it. But so then the last one is Lucy, who is a boy, read by Daniel Henning.
Okay.
So shout outs to you, Daniel Henning. You did a wonderful job reading House in the Cerulean Sea. Lucy is short for Lucifer, who is the Antichrist.
Yes.
But it is hilarious because I'm just to the point in the book where Mr. Baker, and of course Lioness is expected to stay there for like a month. And so he's about halfway through his stay, and he has convinced the headmaster to take the kids out into the little neighboring town, which the townspeople are not very nice. Because, of course, you hear Antichrist and you automatically think evil.
Yeah.
And, of course, all these kids are in this orphanage for a reason. They're all very special. They are all very dangerous type of things. So they have the potential to be dangerous, but the whole story goes through where Lioness just keeps building a relationship, more and more of a relationship with all of these kids and Arthur Parnassus, who is the headmaster, and Zoe, who is an island sprite. And I guess the thing that's very special about sprites is they're very territorial. So the fact that Zoe's island is her home and she's allowing all of these kids onto her island it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it's just such a stinking cute book. And it's like and of course you hear Lucy and Talia go back and forth, our little Antichrist and our little garden gnome go back and forth talking about death. Just like, can I bury you in my garden? Oh my God. It'll be great for all of my flowers. And then Lucy is just like, it's the most innocent meaning of the word innocent, but it's just like, I think about death a lot. Can I see a dead body? Can we go to the graveyard and dig up a body?
Oh my God.
No, child. No, you may not. And it is literally just that simple of, I just really want to see a dead body. I think about it a lot. So funny. So funny.
That's hysterical.
It's hilarious. Do you want to do yours next? So that's like we're doing a switcheroo. But anyway.
Well, my question for you is, have you ever seen Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children? Would you consider it kind of similar to that in a way?
No. Because they are actually monsters. Like, you do see, like, the little gnome with the and Chauncey is the funniest thing. Chauncey is there because everyone has already deemed him as a monster. But my interpretation of his demeanor, how he looks, is basically a giant gelatinous blob because you can see through him. And he's got like tentacle eyes, and it's so cute. When they were just on their way into town, they were describing how each of them was like so excited, but Chauncey had to like go and get dressed and be in a disguise to go into town.
True. So people would be like, what?
But so it's like, it doesn't hide anything.
True.
Definitely doesn't hide anything, but he's like, just makes him feel good to say, well, I can't go out in town in the nude, even though he never wears clothes at the island anyways, but whatever.
That sounds hysterical.
It's hysterical to listen to.
Oh my God.
Hysterical. Like, if you've already read it, you might want to just go back and listen to it, because the way Daniel Henning has read it is just like, this makes the book. This totally makes the book.
And that, I know we've talked about this before, but when you're listening to an audiobook, the narrator can make it or break it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to have to look into that for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so my book, I'm not raving about. but I think I wanted to bring it up because of the importance of, like, how you put together your storyline. So the book I'm talking about is All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. And I think it really solidified in my brain, like, when you're writing a book where it time hops, you have to do so methodically.
Oh, those are tough books to listen to.
Yeah.
To read in general.
Yeah. Well, so, like, Freida McFadden, like, we've talked about quite a bit lately. I've been obviously on that obsession train. But in my opinion, when you have a book that time hops, you have to let the reader know, like, what the overall outcome is to an extent.
Yes.
And all you know is that these girls are missing.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, okay, well, that's kind of the premise of All the Missing Girls. And it was interesting because it starts off where the main character is living far away from home. I think they're living in Pennsylvania and they came from, like, the mountains in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And so their brother calls them and he tells the main character, hey, like, Dad's not doing well. And she's like, okay, like, I'm coming home.
Mm-hmm.
And the task is they're selling their family home.
Mm-hmm.
But her entire past is there. And when she was in high school, her best friend went missing. Mm. And no one was able to figure out what the hell happened.
Mm-hmm.
And then she kind of left abruptly, tried to make a life of her own, got engaged to another guy who was great, and then came back and everything crumbled. And, like, you definitely figure out what happened, but it was almost, like, anticlimactic to me, where it's just, like, you find out what happened to her best friend, and you're like, really? And it's not clear, like... Yeah, you find out what happens to her, because as every day goes on, you're getting closer to the day of, like, the incident. Because another girl goes missing shortly after she gets back into town.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you learn more and more and more. But I wasn't all that impressed as far as how many questions I still had. And I was getting annoyed.
Oh.
Yeah. So, I definitely appreciate the effort by the author. Mm-hmm. But this was a book where, like, I was going on thrift books. And I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I like time hop books.
Mm-hmm.
This was not that.
Got it.
So it'd be interesting to see what other listeners think of it. And obviously, of course, if someone's like, I friggin' loved it, it was amazing, that's fine. Mm-hmm. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I mean, heck, when I was looking at reviews for The Inmate for Freida McFadden, mm-hmm. people are like, this book is terrible. And I was like, I didn't mind it. I liked it.
Everyone is going to have an opinion. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has them, and most of them are full of shit. Did I say that out loud?
Well, I think also my tendency is, like, when I'm reading a book, the author has set up a setting. Mm-hmm. So who am I going to question the reality of, like, day-to-day reality versus the reality of a book? Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, what a lot of the criticism could be. Mm-hmm. But you still shouldn't have a reader saying, wait, what happened again? Mm-hmm. Can you clarify that for me? Mm-hmm. So that was my not super raving review, but my last review of this episode will be raving for sure. So.
All right, awesome.
Okay, what do you have next?
So now the physical book that I am reading, which I'm slightly shocked it's taking me so long to get through.
Really?
I'm a little shocked. It's a bigger book than I thought it was going to be, where it's like I haven't actually gone and looked at how many pages this book is. This is The Book Thief by Markus Zusak. Mm-hmm. Zusak. I'm going to say that correctly. But I'm already loving it, obviously. Like, I picked it up and I have not wanted to put it down at all. And of course I started reading it as soon as I had to start a new class. So of course I'm reading articles about early childhood education instead. So I've split my time nicely between my fun reading and my homework reading, which is kind of why I've been slower on the reads. Yeah. But definitely moving classrooms for next year has helped with the listening aspect of it.
Yes, I'm sure.
So there is something to it. But it's a great book, and I don't know what it is, but I'm definitely one of those people where I am attracted to any books that have to do with Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, books in general. But it's like, it's amazing because this book, and I think I told you this, but this book is written from the point of view of the angel of death, essentially, who is just watching over everything and seeing everything. So we don't actually know what the characters are thinking, But this angel of death will, like, occasionally just divert and be like, yep, we're in this year when they just figured out how to use the gas chambers, so I'm really busy right now and I'm exhausted. And I'm like, but it's like, but it doesn't really dwell on that either. Okay. Like, there are a lot of books based in that are like Nazi Germany, the Holocaust, and it talks about the victims of them. I am not going to diminish that. I have a list. I have read those books. I do not envy anyone who ever had to go through that, any family member that had to go through that, because that's horrible.
Well, you and your mom had recommended the Tattooist of Auschwitz to me, and that was whoa.
Those are woof books. There's another one that I have on my shelf based in that time period, and it I can't remember the name of it right now. I'll think of it.
Yeah.
But I can't think of it right now. But it's kind of the same deal where I almost had it. Damn it. But, like, it's not based like that. It is talking about Nazi Germany. It is talking about Jews in hiding. It is talking about... But it kind of goes and talks about the German folk that were not part of the Nazi Party. And how their lives were a little bit more difficult because they were not part of the Nazi Party. Where it's like, you think Germany was great in that time period because like all the Germans were just like, yeah, we're gonna go and do all the things. But if you were not a part of the Nazi Party, which, like, there were, I think 10% of the people were just like, no, I can't support this. They had it hard. They could not find work at all. Because if you had someone work for you that was not part of the Nazi Party, that and then looked bad on you. Yeah. But so basically the book thief, and I was actually shocked to learn this, is an 11-year-old girl. Which I thought was so cool. I'm like, huh. And of course it starts off with her stealing a book from a graveyard after her brother is buried in the graveyard. And of course the book is the Gravedigger's Handbook. But this poor girl can't read. So her adopted father, essentially, is teaching her how to read at 2 o'clock in the morning when she is having nightmares and can go back to sleep. But it kind of just talks about her upbringing. And of course, I'm a little bit more than halfway through it, so I haven't finished it yet. But, yeah. Just, like, little part of my heart lives with this book already, and I know it's going to.
And it's an older book, right?
It is an older book, but it's like an award-winning bestseller type of book. And I'm like, and it's been on my, like, to-be-read list for a long time, because I'm like, I just want this book. I want to read this book. I need to figure out what this book is about. Like, what is the whole rave about? And I love how it's set up. Like, I'm the person where I like my shorter chapters, and it's actually pretty nice. So it's like, it's broken up into parts, and each part has its own chapter headings. So you can see, this part 3 has all these different headings in it for each chapter. And I was like, oh. So it tells you, it lays it all out for you, each one. So it's like, I know exactly what's coming. And it kind of gives you a little bit of an illusion of what's gonna, a little bit of foreshadowing of what am I gonna start reading. So it's like, it makes you want to read the whole entire chapter and the whole entire section of that book. Yeah. It's, like, I get a lot of praise for this. And then it goes and it'll break it down a little bit in each part. So, you know how a lot of books, they have to over-explain things sometimes? Yeah. This book is actually really nice, where it'll be, like, a paragraph or two, and it'll come to a part where it's Liesel is the main character's name. Liesel heard this person say this and was not pleased, and then it just gives a really short synopsis of what the person said, and then moves on. Huh. I was like, that's cool.
It just blows my mind that I know I read this book, I think, when I was in, like, middle school, and I don't remember any of it, so I'm going to have to reread it. I genuinely... And it wasn't like it was assigned. It was a fun read for me. Right. And I don't... Like...
I'll come drop it off with you when I'm done.
Sounds like a plan. Because I know you were raving about this not that long ago, so I need to dip my feet in the water again and read it.
I'm telling you, just having that hook in the beginning of, a lot of people call me different things, but I essentially gather the dead, and I'm like, that's cool. I've never had a book read from this perspective. This is cool.
It mixes it up. I think that's what makes these books bestsellers is when it's a little different than your standard outline.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Oh, I'm excited. All right. And then my last book, I think you would really enjoy it. It's definitely one of those books where I have to give a warning that it's involving a shooting, like a mass shooting. And it's called Out of Nowhere by Sandra Brown. And this woman had recommended this to me on the fitness app that I talk about all the time. And I was like, okay, now I have to read it. This sounds really, really good. Oh my god.
It was really, really good.
Yeah, so I'm going to give a spoiler just because this happens within the first, 10 pages of the book anyway.
Oh, okay.
So it's not a massive spoiler. So this woman, a single parent, she's at the fair with her son and a really good friend of hers. And they've had a good time. But she's like, okay, my son's 2 or 3 years old. I think he was 3. It's time for us to go home. And it's in the perspective of this woman. I don't remember her name because it's been a little while. And this guy, where you know he's a businessman, but you don't exactly know what he's doing. And he's dating this news anchor, or reporter, rather, who's just going around covering everything. And so this reporter is at the fair that day because she got an interview with this artist who was singing.
Okay.
So the mom is leaving with her son in the stroller, and the guy's coming in, and the shooting begins.
Ooh.
And she ends up getting hit.
Ooh.
And she sees her son's carriage, rolling away from her. She's freaking the fuck out. Which, understandable.
Sure.
And then she sees a guy, try to go and reach for the stroller, and the stroller topples over. And she, blacks out. And she wakes in the hospital, and she learns her son was ultimately shot.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So, I figured I'd give that spoiler because it is really in the beginning, so it's not missing much, and it's hard. But her son does end up dying. But the whole premise of the book is this guy and this woman are both survivors of the shooting. And they're trying to figure out what the hell happened. And they're not getting answers from the police. The police are still working as hard as they can, but they're not getting the answers that they want. So the shooting, a lot of it, yes, is trauma bonding, and that's something that they definitely question. Are we trauma bonding, or are we genuinely into each other? Obviously, there's a romance, but let me tell you, of all the mysteries, it was kind of fucked up with who the shooter was. Oh. Because you would never guess. Ooh. So I borrowed that from the local library, and I was like, okay, now I'm hooked on Sandra Brown.
Okay, so I might have to go and find that one, because that sounds really good.
It's so well written from the 2 different perspectives. And, at first you think the guy is a bit of a douchebag, and you're like, what the hell? Because, his girlfriend's just like, oh, are you coming to the fair? And he's like, I honestly just want to go home and be by myself.
That's me. That's me as a person. Yep.
But as the book goes along, it's a lot of his rationale and his how he does everything. You're like, holy shit, he's a step ahead of everyone. And you come to realize being a step ahead of everyone is part of what his job is, and it's a very unique job. So, Out of Nowhere by Sandra Brown. I do highly recommend it. And it's the right book when you see, purple sky in a way. And it's a lightning strike down the middle.
Ooh, I like it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, we just had, obviously, our last full day was Tuesday, and it was, just the teachers. And I gotta say, I love the group of teachers I have, because I was talking to a couple of them, and I said, we should do an adult book swap before we go on break.
Yeah.
And our librarian was able to get it all together and just was kind of like, hey, bring in your old books and we'll do a book swap. I came home with more books than I brought, and all of them sound awesome. The Rose Code was one of them that I found that someone was just like, yep.
Wow.
I was like, that's on my list. I need
it
now.
I love it when that happens.
I need it now. And then it was The People We Meet on Vacation was another one.
I want to read that.
I have it now. I think it's the people we meet on vacation. I'm nearly
Please
positive
don't let me
it
down.
is. I will look when I get home to make sure that it is that one. But it's one of those like fun summer read books that I've just heard all about, and I'm like, yep, I want that one, and yes, I want that one. There's another one that was about something about witchcraft, and it sounded really good, and of course I can't remember anything about any of the books because I was just like, I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take this one, and now I have 5 and I need to stop. And then I went back and, oh, there's more. Okay, so I'm going to take 2 more, and now I need to stop.
You don't have a problem.
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem.
Speaking of witchy, did you hear that Practical Magic 2 is going to be in the works?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I got to keep an eye out for that one.
Yep. So excited. Well, we've been at it for a while. You want to tell everyone where to find us and please subscribe to?
Mm-hmm. So we are at Books, Booze, Murder. You can find us on the gram, on Spotify, and on YouTube. Please subscribe and send us any suggestions of books that we might want to read. Yeah. Right now we're scheduled all the way out to December. Thank God.
Yeah, I think we're scheduled for a while, so we didn't have to think about it, but
it is nice to be able to like have just books on the to be read list. Not that my pile needs to be bigger, but that is beside the point.
Yeah, but we're always open to more book suggestions, please. And if you like what you hear, please, please, please subscribe. You don't have to listen to every episode, but please subscribe. Again, we're on Spotify and YouTube with Books, Booze, and Murder. And I think that's it for now.
Toodles.